Hey, I'm Amy Rosenberg, your host of PR Talk, a podcast about marketing and PR produced by Veracity, a boutique marketing agency based in Portland, but we work all over the place because PR is not about connections, it's about doing it right, and that's what this podcast is about. We're sponsored by PRSA Oregon because, well, they also want to help PR people. Networking, mentorship, skill building, professional development. Check out prsaoregon.org to see how membership can help you grow and connect.
We get so many pitches that are just irrelevant.
We want ideas and we want stories. We don't want press releases.
PR people are great and they plan in advance.
Well, today I have my favorite recruiter, Dan Lee, on the line with PR Talent. Hi, Dan.
Hello, Amy. Good to be back with you on PR Talk.
Yeah, thank you for coming back. And just a quick check-in, it's been a while since we've had you, and so much has been happening now with COVID-19, and unfortunately, people are losing their jobs. So I just wanted to check in. We're going to be talking about some tips that people can do and talking about this from both the client side and the job seekers side, but just checking in on what's going on out there in the job market today.
Well, boy, oh boy, we are all living and working for the most part through a very difficult time and a very historic time in our country. So I may not have all the answers, but can certainly share, what we're seeing at PR Talent in the Northwest marketplace. And, from a candidate perspective, Amy, it boils down, I think, really to three areas. Those that are still working in communications and those that are really clinging on to the job that they have. Those that have been furloughed or out of work just because of the contraction of the market, whether it be an in-house role that you were working on or at an agency. And I've been talking with a lot of candidates in the third category as well that are certainly working, but they're being very proactive in managing their career at this point and want to be at the ready when we come through COVID-19 and we start to see the economy come back, say Q3, Q4, that they're ready to make a move. So that's what we're seeing at this point from a candidate standpoint.
Okay. And how many people have been laid off? It seems you might not know, but just curious, like how hard is this affecting our industry, which just in general is communications or marketing compared to other industries?
Well, I think, there hasn't been an industry that hasn't been impacted by this. Communications, certainly one of those, and communications, marketing always seem to be at the top of the list when we go through, whether it be a recession or anything along these lines. But I'm not sure about if I have an exact number of how many communicators have lost their jobs. But I can tell you that, as I speak with clients, former clients, roles that I was working on prior to, right up into the coronavirus hitting in our region, each and every one of those roles has been put on pause. Just because of the uncertainty. Each day is bringing us new information, but I think it's also adding to the uncertainty of, where we are and, with the virus and how we slowly get back to what will probably be a new normal. And we don't know what that is quite yet.
Mm-hmm. So some people have been laid off, and I guess when I say marketing as an industry, I mean maybe, we are marketers within various industries. So I'm sure if you're in restaurant or hospitality, that you're going to be hit harder than a different industry. But when you say that the clients, so your clients, people who are hiring, that they have paused their hiring search. So is anybody hiring right now? Because I did hear.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, there really are roles. We are working on roles across the country. And I would say, companies and agencies and sectors to be looking at that are still, in the hiring game to some degree would be, that B2B tech area. Healthcare is another one. Some law firms certainly are in the hiring mode. And of course, believe it or not, higher education, because look what's happening to colleges and universities across the country with distance learning, online learning, the communication that has to take place with both students, alumni, incoming freshmen, and still that constant marketing that has to go on. So those would be areas to be thinking about if you're out there as a candidate. And then from just a skills point of view, we're seeing a lot certainly in the internal communication space. The crisis issues management skill set is really sought after, as are financial communications and investor relations. So those are some areas and skill sets where you look at industries where there still are opportunities and still opportunities to land on your feet in a certain sector. But also, if you have some of those internal communication skills, those are highly sought after. As you can see, the workforce is changing, and it's probably ever changing as we go forward.
Yeah, so when we are virtually working, having the internal communicator piece could be huge for a company. So just to kind of be the glue.
Very much so. And it's one that maybe you don't always think about, how important, brands certainly do. Are they walking the talk or not? And you can see many of them are because they have to communicate to their employees as to, when are we coming back? What are the safety precautions and those types of things? So it's a huge area and one that's growing and in big demand right now.
Yeah, and I would also think anything with digital would be huge, especially when you're talking about education. I mean, we've got to put all of that online now or something, video, something. So people that have experience with that, and kind of you could even transition that into communications or out of communications and just focus on some digital. That could be good.
Very much so. Those are the types of skills right now that are still, clients, both agency and in-house, are seeking and looking for. And then, the other side of it too, Amy, is, one of the things I wanted to talk about, that challenge brings opportunity. So, I think when we go, there's a few phases that we've been experiencing as we've gone through this coronavirus from a career standpoint. And one is, it hits, you have to hunker down. You want to protect what you have. You have to, our whole world gets turned upside down. And we sometimes will look inward and not be as proactive as we should be. But really right now is an excellent time to start managing your career and really taking stock of where are you? I mean, rarely in communications do we have a chance. It's an all-consuming career normally. 24/7, you're always on. But now things have slowed down, and we have a chance to reflect and really pause and think about, well, where am I in my career and where am I going? Is this what I want to do, or is there a move that I want to make? And now is the time to get ready to really take small steps to put that your positive step, or really position yourself in a strong way. So if you're ready to make a move, say third, fourth quarter, or the beginning of 2021, that you're ready to do so.
Yeah. So, what would your tips be for somebody who is, I guess, for both people? So, someone who is going to make a move, but they're currently employed, but they'd like to either switch industries or just switch jobs, and on the flip side, somebody who has been furloughed or laid off. Any tips for them on how to be proactive in their job search right now?
Yeah, I think there's really there are the three P's, really, I would say, Amy. Be prepared, be patient, and be proactive. So, as I mentioned, first and foremost, assess your situation currently. Do you want to carve out a new career path, or do you want to recommit to the one that you currently have? So what do you do about that? And what is it that you want to do, and what gets you excited about your current role, or what is it that you'd like to do if you'd like to change sectors? So be thinking about that first and foremost. Networking in this social distancing age still is very critical. How do you do it? We can talk about that here in a minute. So stay visible via LinkedIn and other methods. Look at refreshing your LinkedIn page and your resume. Is that photo that you have on your LinkedIn page, is that fairly current, or is it one that's been there for 10 years? When was the last time you even looked at your LinkedIn page? And does it mirror your resume? So are you telling a strong story about you and your skill set? So, really what this boils down to is also having a bit of an entrepreneurial mindset as you look at this. Again, what is the opportunity? How can you take advantage of the situation that we're in? And so this new normal potentially will create different paths for growth from a career standpoint. So being ready is super important at this particular time. And it doesn't take a lot. And we know everyone's managing a lot at home, not only their career, but their families. They're now wearing the teacher hat, the PR hat, all kinds of things. So you can do these in very short, bite-sized pieces along the way, and don't feel like you have to do it all in one sitting.
Yeah, earlier you had said something about doing one thing per day so something proactive for your career each day, and I thought that was cool. So one day you could look at your LinkedIn picture. One day you could decide who to network with. I actually want to ask you now. You said, so how do you network when you can't leave the house?
Well, I know, and it's a question I'm getting all the time. So how do you do that? And so there are a couple of ways, as you go, LinkedIn being maybe the primary tool to network. How do you do that remotely? How do you do that with social distancing? So are there current or former employees and colleagues that maybe you haven't connected with in a long, long time and haven't even thought about? So, let's look at what's right in front of you. Who's in your network? Who haven't you had a chance to speak to? Where are they working these days? And it's now a good opportunity to connect with them. I would say it would be in a very genuine way. How about alumni groups? Where did you go to school? Have you tapped into them at all? If not, why not? Now is a good time to check in to see what they might be have going on from a virtual standpoint, where you could plug yourself in and get a little bit more visibility. Industry associations, I know PRSA in Oregon, for example, last week had a virtual happy hour. There are a bunch of those out there. IABC, Women in Communications, other organizations. You can't do them all, but if there's one that piques your interest or is in an area of expertise that you have, could be healthcare, could be something else, why not put yourself out there a little bit? And then as you're doing that, one of the things that we don't do a very good job of, I think, in communications is asking for a referral. Who do you know that I might be able to talk to, and being open to referring folks to the colleagues and the former employees, and offering that support to your network as well. We're in a position right now where we all need a little bit of support, and I think by and large everyone's open to spending time with others and being, a friendly voice and friendly ears as we go through this together.
Yeah, the other day I had someone ask me to do a Zoom, not you could call it a happy hour, but just a Zoom check-in, like a Zoom call,
Mm-hmm.
like instead of getting coffee, because we were trying to get coffee for so long and then we just never did. And then now social distancing. So it's like, oh, let's just hook up on Zoom. And it was a fun use of time. And now we might be sharing business leads back and forth.
And I would also add that I would put myself in that mix as part of your network. For those listening to the podcast today, that uh, I'm booking time quite a bit and putting myself out there as a resource for potential clients, candidates that want to just chat. So if it's about where you are in your career and where you want to take it, I'm available for that. If you're a client that's trying to assess, well, we're going to be coming back online. A month from now, 2 months from now, we may have a need to add to our team. I'd love to hear more about how you operate with PR talent. What does that look like? And really start that process to begin some of that momentum. And if anyone would like to take me up on that, you're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Or if you want to drop me an email, my email is dlee@prtalent.com. Again, that's dlee@prtalent.com. I'm based in the Seattle area, so I'm in the Northwest and handle the region for PR talent. And if I can be a fresh set of ears, a calming presence in this storm, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, so because you're talking to companies all the time about what their hiring needs are, and you're also talking to candidates all the time. So you're kind of like a matchmaker between companies and candidates. So, it's not like that your work just stops. Like we all need to be talking to each other and just putting our, wants and needs out there in the world because pretty soon you, Dan, are going to be able to matchmake that.
Yeah, we will get back to where opportunities will start to present themselves like they were prior to COVID-19. That will happen. And plus, the other thing, Amy, to consider is that, careers are long-term games, so to speak. So this takes a while to land your next position if you're a candidate, the next right position. In many cases, you're not jumping to jump or taking anything. You do have to be, if you don't have work right now, certainly you need to be open to a job. It may not be the job you want, but it may get you to the next one. But my point is, whether you're a candidate or a client, finding the right candidate does take time, and there's no time like the present to really start to cultivate and talk to build your network, talk to others in your network, and really start to lay that groundwork and what I call personal momentum for yourself, rather than staying quiet and with all of this coming at you. I think you'll start to even feel better about what we're going through when you put yourself out there and take one positive step a day to whether it be, as we talk, the LinkedIn page, the resume, some of these other things. I think you'll start to feel and sense the momentum and really put you in a different mental state than maybe what you're currently going through, because this has been tough on everyone.
Yeah. And so if we haven't gone through all the tips for, job seekers, that we can do that. But I'd also like to talk about your tips for clients or companies who are looking to hire. So, or I guess who have had to pause and pause their hiring. What tips do you have for them?
We'll start with clients. We are still, clients are interviewing, those that they want to keep the pipeline going. The Zoom interview is here to stay. So it is going to be part of our landscape from a hiring standpoint from here going forward. It was a little bit before, but even more so now. So being open to that and knowing that you can take advantage of interviewing candidates right now, I think is really important from a client standpoint. Being realistic with candidates too, knowing that we're in kind of this unique situation with the coronavirus, but being transparent as to when you think a role might come online, because candidates and clients are in this pause game and feel a bit uneasy. If you're a candidate about making a move, or a client about adding one till you're really certain about doing so. But I think also in the third piece here is eventually the candidate and client have to meet, I think, at a certain point to really feel good about, the offer stage and then bringing someone on board. So again, that all takes time, but there's a lot of work clients can do right now to prepare themselves to have a pipeline full of good candidates that they've talked to. So when the time comes and they can start meeting face to face, they're way ahead of the game and probably ahead of their competitors when it comes to landing great talent.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well be proactive now because it does take a long time. And then I don't know, did we get through all the tips for for people looking for jobs? Because you did mention the 3 Ps, and I remember the first one was prepared, but I don't know that we got through. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't remember what the other two were.
we talked being prepared, being patient, and being proactive. So I think we covered the preparation piece and being proactive by, looking at that, what can you do each day to push yourself forward, whether that be a networking opportunity, making a connection on LinkedIn with people in organizations that are of interest to you. And then the patient piece, really, Amy, that kind of comes from within, and just understanding that we're in a unique period in time. And each day, I think that's what's so interesting, at least from my looking at it from my own perspective of what this has been like on a daily basis, in that it's been challenging because the information is different every day around the coronavirus and the changes that are taking place. it's almost information overload. So sometimes you have to get away from it, go take a walk. Mac Pritchard, a former guest of yours, and Mac's List, who does a great job in Portland, put out a few weeks ago that I thought was really helpful. He shared a 10-minute meditation video that was in his e-newsletter, and I used it a couple of times. I mean, it's not something I always do, but I was grasping for things myself to take me away from the day-to-day overload of what was happening with the coronavirus, just to break away from it. We're getting into nicer weather, so take those walks, get out, clear your head, and really take advantage of it, because we're going to be in this for a while. But you also have to take care of yourself through it as well, in order for you to be, prepared and proactive and patient all at the same time. So there's a lot going on, but I think all these things can be done in very small steps, day in, day out, as we work toward that new normal, as everyone talks about.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. That patience is kind of also like, it sounds like putting your own oxygen mask on first before you
Yes.
go and do anything. I mean, I've was kind of like going crazy over delivering for my clients. Right when this first started, well, we always over deliver, but it was like maximized over delivery. And I wasn't working out. And lately I started to do these quick videos from home, kind of in the middle of my workday, but normally I would not be interested in doing that because I like to work, but it's given me so much more energy. I feel like, it's a little pick me up and a boost, and I can do a better job for my clients after I do that.
Yeah, I think, finding what works for you, and that can be during, the coronavirus that we're going through or beyond. I've always been a big advocate for finding ways to, re-energize yourself. And we have to do that because the career requires so much creativity. So you have to break away, I always believe, so you can come back for more, to do this work. I've been in the career for 20 years now, both as a practicing PR professional and as a recruiter. So I've always been a big believer of that, that you have to find something to get away in order to come back for more.
Definitely. So are you finding that in the interim, but in between jobs, people might be kind of trying to do freelance now, or?
Very much so. I think that will be an area that we've typically seen as an agency, a recruiting firm, when, say, you turn the clock back to 9/11. There, and then we had the big recession, at that time, and this big disruption. So this typically can fall into three categories, is how we see what happens here when it comes to layoffs being the first stage. The second stage is we start to work through the coronavirus and get back to, as you can see, states are slowly opening over, what will be this entire month of May. That freelance work and select furlough employees, companies and agencies will be looking at that to put their toe back in the water as far as staffing needs go. And then the third stage is a rehiring. So it could be full-time new talent, or bringing some of the stars that maybe had to be furloughed back in first and foremost, and then looking beyond that for new talent. So, being open to freelance work is something you should be prepared for. And what is it, how do you differentiate yourself from a freelance standpoint? And talking about that, when you're out there networking, letting people know, that's important. It's funny, we're in this world of communications, but sometimes we're not our best advocate or our best communicator. We sit on our hands and we won't tell a strong story about ourselves, but now you have to. So as you reach out to contacts, do let them know, because that's how you can, grab a 1, 2, 3 freelance assignments fairly quickly.
Yeah, prepare your talking points for yourself before you reach out.
Yeah, sometimes we don't do a very good job, Amy, of taking our own medicine, but this is one time we have to do so.
Yeah, and what's your branding statement? And there could be layers, where you have to talk about doing freelance now, but then what your long-term goal is. And I mean, it's almost like writing the objective in a resume.
Right. And how you look at the freelance assignment. It's is it a freelance assignment, or do you really look at it as a freelance assignment that is a try before you buy that could land into a full-time opportunity? And
Totally.
it's one of those backdoor ways of getting in front of and filling a need quickly for a client, if you're a freelancer, that could be your full-time employer as you get in there, prove what you can do, and if the chemistry lines up.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people had freelance practices and then they got taken by a client, because a
Sure.
good opportunity came along and they went full time with one client. A lot of my friends have done that. So, well, great. So, I don't know if you had any last minute tips or tricks for people who are looking for jobs or anything else to say about where to go to look for freelance work. I mean, that's a little different, but I don't know if you are you finding a lot of companies coming to you saying, "Well, we're not hiring, but we would take a freelancer."
Well, we work primarily, our agency PR Talent works primarily in the full-time space, but we do a lot of freelance searches. So we have a database of freelance candidates for clients out there all over the country. And that's the interesting in the part of the freelance world is, you don't necessarily have to, that freelance work can be anywhere. So depending on your skill set, so you could be working with clients across the country and be based in Portland. So if you are looking, if a freelance opportunity is something that interests you as a candidate, I'd love to know that. And, again, feel free to send me your resume or link in with me. And again, my email is dlee@prtalent.com. And we can always set up a time to talk through your situation, what you're looking for, your skill set. And as I have opportunities, both full-time and freelance, I'll share those with you and we can talk about them and see if it lines up right for you to take the next step. So we do a lot on the freelance side. We think freelance will be one of the first things we see or more of the freelance opportunities as we work through the coronavirus. And then eventually the full-time opportunities. So if you're a client out there as well, and you're like, hey, look, we're looking to we may be in the need to bring on a couple of freelancers. Again, I'd love to learn more about that and be a potential resource for you when you get to that stage, again, as we work through this on a daily basis.
Yeah, so going through you might be a little bit more vetted than going through some of those websites that kind of try and pair freelancers with organizations.
Yes, I mean we screen all of our candidates and we really try to line them up. As you mentioned at the top, I am a matchmaker when it comes to this. That's the idea, both for the candidate and the client, and really try to humanize the hiring process, which Amy, as you may know, we've lost a bit of that human element. I mean, these are big decisions, whether they be freelance or full-time opportunities. Yet it makes it very difficult for candidates to break through in many instances if they don't have an advocate working internally at an agency or an in-house opportunity. So it's good to develop a relationship with a recruiter like me, as well as continue to pursue and work your own network. It's never just one thing. There are layers to it that will really help open a door and help a candidate land the next right opportunity for them at this stage of their career.
Definitely. And then last thing, you mentioned that if you're looking for freelance work, you could probably work wherever if it's freelance, but in terms of you don't have to be in the same state that the client is in. But I was also wondering if that's also the case with other organizations that are looking for full time, since now we're at a work from home model. Could we be looking at out of state jobs?
Well, that's going to be a very interesting situation. I don't know if I have the right answer for that yet. I think it's a trend that we may see evolve here over time as we look at, what is the new environment going to look like, the new office environment in communications? How much will we see agencies, working together? We're in such a collaborative career in the world of communications, and sometimes that face-to-face is needed, and to break through the technology and the tone and how much something might be interpreted or misinterpreted. So it's going to be interesting to see both how communications teams will be structured as we go forward. And if in fact the remote workforce will be a high priority, and what that does to the hiring across the board and geographic location. Does it matter as much as it used to, or are the skills going to be more important? It's something we'll have our finger on the pulse of, and be happy to share more of that as we all learn more as we go through Q3 and Q4 of this year.
Yeah, and I'm sure there isn't going to be a definite answer because it probably just depends on the company or the client. But I could see that opens up. It'll probably open up some more doors, but it just depends.
Yeah, we'll find out. We are still in for a ride here, and I don't know about you, but I don't. Which month seemed longer to you, just personally? Was it
Yeah.
March? Was it March or April?
I don't know. I mean, so this has been so odd. It's all gone. It feels like it's kind of gone fast, but like very slowly at the same time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it is, isn't it strange that way? It's like it seems like looking back on it, it seems like oh, it went by pretty quickly. But when you're in it, it seems like every day moves at a slower pace. I guess is the way I would describe it. And there's some interesting stats out there, some funny factoids that you might get a kick out of. That I was reading early on about this. Alcohol sales are on the rise, and in time, people are eating earlier, drinking earlier, all those kinds of things, because it really doesn't matter, as far as when things are slowing down or when your work is done for the day. And then there was an interesting stat I saw. Do you know, Amy? I don't know. It was a story I saw, but it was very interesting. Walmart sold more of has been selling more of what product, do you think, than any other product during this period of time?
well, besides toilet paper,
Yeah, besides
well,
that, yeah. Besides
I
toilet paper.
maybe booze, but it can't be that because you already mentioned that. So that's so odd. I guess I'd say booze. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's tops, clothing, the tops of clothing,
Oh,
because they aren't
okay.
selling as many bottoms for men and women because we're all on video conference and we're only showing, our the upper half
Mm-hmm.
of our body. So people have, when they have been purchasing things, they want to look,
Mm-hmm.
fresh and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things they're doing is they're buying more tops during this
Mm-hmm.
period. But I think what's going to be interesting, the behavior that comes out of this, certainly we're seeing it, we're living it, the consumer behavior, what the trends are, how our work will change, what that means from a hiring standpoint, and just how the collaborative and creative nature of communications will evolve, change, and adapt over time. And I think it's going to be exciting. I think there will be new opportunities. It's just going to take us a little time to get there.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's going to be fascinating. It's always fun in communications.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dan.
Always great to talk with you, Amy. Keep up the good work. Stay safe and healthy, you and your family, and really appreciate being a guest on PR Talk again.
Yeah, thank you. All the way from Seattle. Thank you.
So if you had to pick between a show or an event that had PR and one that didn't, and it was the exact event, would you go with the PR?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's good to hear.
I'm good
That's
for
all
our
we need.
sales
All right, we
pitch.
can go. We just need the
Perfect. You got the
validation.
soundbite.
We're out.
Yep.